Good morning and welcome. We have apologies from the Honorable Dwayne Seymour, Minister for Health, Environment, Culture and Housing, who has been delayed. So we'll go ahead and begin our short little ceremony. And I take pleasure in introducing Henry Mutu, the Artistic Director of the Cayman National Cultural Foundation, who will give the names of the awardees. Henry?
Okay, thank you, Virginia. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you all for attending. I'd like to also give apologies for the Managing Director, Marcia. She's unavoidably away meeting with the accounts, the people who deal with all the money and so on. We have to get that right. So she sends her apologies. I was only supposed to do one little thing, but I just want to give you a little quick background for those of you who don't already know. I guess most people here are familiar with KFS. This is the 28th annual KFest. When KFest first started, it was an approach was made to the Cultural Foundation. At the time, Mr. Dave Martins was the chairman, and Mr. McKeever Bush, I believe, was Minister of Culture at the time. And he asked Mr. Martins if the foundation would consider doing a National Arts Festival. And so out of that idea, we put together a proposal for an arts festival. The original proposal, of course, was a little bit more complex than this. It involved a schedule that was heavily leaning towards training, towards working in the districts, so that when we put a festival on, that festival would be informed by a deeper understanding of our heritage and of course the changes that have occurred, as we notice now, quite glaringly in how culture changes. But that wasn't to be, of course, because the funding for something like that would have been a lot, and also it would have necessitated changing how we educate our youth with specific regard to culture and heritage, which meant that we would have had to have culture and education working so closely in tandem, so that what is being taught in the schools is filtered into the districts with the youth, and then with the foundation and other organizations, whether it is the museum, the National Gallery, the National Trust, National Archive, going into the schools, then there would be a unified approach, so that whenever KFest comes, rather than us having to go search and pick people out and say, would you like to do this and thing, we would have had a groundswell of culture. But like I said, that's not to be. And what we did is we've made the very best of what we could do, given all of the dynamics that operates within culture and the arts. So having said that, I think that I don't like to come on these forums and talk about how good the foundation has done. I think that has to be left to other people to see the work that we're doing, look at it very carefully and decide how important it is or not. But from my own perspective, I think that we have done the very best with the resources that we have to work about, both human and financial resources. In the old days, when I say the old days, it dates me a little bit, but in the old days when we started KFest first and when we started the Cultural Foundation, many people were willing to come and do things and volunteer, and there was a passion for the arts and culture and history and heritage of the Cayman Islands. I think that society has moved so quickly. We've developed in such a fast way that it has been difficult for some people to keep up with that image in the mirror, which keeps changing so rapidly that it is difficult sometimes for us to see ourselves. But the foundation, and through the help of all the people in this room, have been instrumental in helping in some way to keep these things alive that we think are near and dear to us. If I can just take a minute to introduce some members of staff who some people may not know. Melanie, who was our most recent, Melanie Macfield, who has just joined us. Melanie is our Chief Cultural Officer. We have George Jones, who is our programs coordinator, George, is that right? And then we have Virginia Foster, who I think everybody would know is our education officer, and she also doubles up as librarian, plus many other things. All of us do several things. So one title is only the sort of formal, official sort of thing, but we do many things. Anyway, so when the awards started, I think what we recognize now, that was K-Fest in general, but after the first K-Fest, then at the foundation we recognized that, you know, artists are, I don't want to say the least, but they're very underappreciated. The value of arts and the artists in society is tremendously undervalued. And I think that if I could offer any advice to anybody, is to have them take a serious look at the arts, because giving a little bit more money to the arts is important, but it is also important that our education, as I talked about before, ties in very seriously with the programs that the foundation is doing. So there has to be some kind of symbiotic relationship between the organizations, rather than you do you, I do me, and so on. And sometimes we have to get rid of some of the little bit of tensions between organizations, because some people feel that we're the right one, you're the right one, this one isn't doing good, and so on. And I think that the quicker we get rid of that and understand that we're all in this together, the better we will be. So we thought that artists should be recognized, because they don't, you get a little bit of money, but only probably musicians in Cayman can make their living, and not a decent one, most of them, out of their music. If you get a big hit, you may make some money, but it would have to sell abroad. In Cayman, you don't have enough people here to buy your records for you to be able to live a decent life, not even a half decent life off of it. And so artists, if nothing else, well, I mean, I'm not even talking about visual arts. A visual artist may sell a painting, maybe 2, 3 in a good year, 2, 3, 4, 5, but then next year they sell one, they don't sell any. So it's very difficult for artists to really work at their art. And the Cultural Foundation hopes that at some point we will be able to have artists, and art will be so respected in Cayman that our great artists their works will be bought, and we'll be able to appreciate them much more. So we thought that one of the things we could do is to recognize the worth and work of artists, even if we can't offer a lot of money to them, that we can offer them something which is recognition from their peers. When you get an award from the Cultural Foundation, it is not, and I've said this before, so it's not news, it is not that somebody likes you up at the foundation. It is not that somebody is your friend. We are not friends, you know what I mean, with anybody enough to see you do bad work and give you an award for good work. So the work has to be good, it has to be tested. And we have a committee of very knowledgeable people who examine when the public, of course, it's open to the public. So the public, any member of the public can submit a name, but it has to be justified. The person has to be working to get a gold level. You have to be working at least 20 years, then a silver 10 and 5. But the work must be quality. You could work for 20 years and only learn 1 year of work. So the years is one thing, but the quality. But I might, if we get time, I'll let Virginia speak a little bit more to some of the criteria, because Virginia is the secretary of the Grants and Awards Committee, and she has a lot of those statistics. So, but we thought it was really important. And when we started, I because I do these things at the foundation, we designed little trophies, and we had little triangles that shaped made out of wood, and it was shaped like 2 sails, one upside down, and then there was a bit of thatch in the middle, which represented the heritage and so on. And they were very simple things, because again, we didn't have money to do it, so we made everything in-house. And then it moved from that to some bronze awards, which was called the Radley Gerzong Award. It was named after Mr. Radley. And then subsequent to that, we decided that it was just costing us too much money every year to just keep buying awards and paying people a lot of money for one thing. So we designed medals, which you would have seen it, and we don't have a copy of one, but it carries the red, white, and blue colors of the Caymanian flag, and the 2 medals, one has a 16-point star, which represent the quality of work, and then the medal, which is the Heritage Cross, carries it has a cross which is woven out of thatch. Of course, it's metal, and an etching of Miss Lassie's face, because I think everybody by now knows how we feel about Miss Lassie and what her legacy is to Cayman. So we thought that the foundation thought it was good to have this medal, to have her work represented as something that we can achieve in heritage and culture. So that's how the Arts Awards came about and why they came about. And we're proud that for 26 years actually, this is the 27th years that we have been honoring people. And some of those people are any and everybody in Cayman. Let me just give you a few names. We had, of course, some of the early people, Mr. Radley Gurzong and the Happy Boys, got it. Herbert Martin, Dave Martins, Captain Charles Marvin Ebanks. Is this Arlen Tatum? This is from Cayman Brac, Captain Arlen from the Brac. We had Dr. Steve McField, and then for the gold award, the cross, the gold star for creativity, right, Virginia? The star for creativity, I beg your pardon. And people like Joy Brandon was one of the first people to receive it. Some people don't even know Joy. She was one of Cayman's major radio broadcasters, radio hosts for one of the morning shows, but she was also a playwright. She wrote the very first winning play of when we started the playwriting competition, and it was called Lavinia Lee and Her Sisters, and we're going to be putting it on in about a year or so. Again, Dr. Frank McField, of course, Bendel Hides, of course, Miss Lassie, Aunt Julia, Grace Geely, Sue Horrocks, Ali Mae Ebanks, Selita Ebanks, Sherry Ebanks. I mean, the names are legion. Almost everybody. We there are some people out there who deserves it. But remember that we don't go in the hat and pick out names. Yes, we might have ideas, but we like the public to submit names to us. And then, so if you don't submit, then it's going to be difficult for you to get the person that you think does the work. And once the submissions come in, our committee looks at it, and then we decide, okay, this person, we talk about it. And when we don't know, we find out. We call people around, we ask the people to justify why this person must get this award, tell us a little bit more, and so on. So it's a very thorough process. So let me announce, if we can do this now, right? I know everybody waiting for this. So for this year, our Gold Heritage Cross. So Virginia will tell you about this, but this is given specifically in the field of heritage preservation, and development and preservation and celebration, of course. So we have from the museum, Deborah is Deborah, your title is the Director of Curation and Collections Manager at the National. Deborah's been in the museum for a very, very long time. I know Deborah since she was actually roughly when you started out, right? I mean, I know you've been, we are dating you, but no, but Deborah is, I don't want to talk a lot, but she's just an incredible person who really is passionate and has a terrific zeal for her culture, particularly for the culture that's rooted in traditions. And she's been awarded the Gold Heritage Cross. For this year, she's one of the awardees. We have another stalwart up in front, Mr. Gerald Rankin. Mr. Gerald, you're what, 90 now?
No, not quite.
Not quite. I'm putting you too high. All right, but you're nearly there, though. Well, there you go. Well, you're close. When you start to get old, some of the youngsters, yeah, exactly. But the thing is, when we get past 70 and so on, we are proud to tell people we're 75 and 85, is when you're 30 and so on, you say you're 35. No, I'm not 35. No, man, I only 30. So I'm sure you're proud of that. But Mr. Gerald Rankin, and I'll just read quickly from Deborah's, and you'll get this paper, but just quickly. Deborah Barnes-Deborah's passion for Cayman's history was ignited during her high school years under the tutelage of Richard Tressida. She joined the Cayman Islands National Museum in 1989. That's the year I actually started with the foundation, following 4 years of central government employment, and has dedicated her life to the collection, preservation, interpretation, and exhibition of Cayman's cultural heritage. As the National Museum's Curation and Collections Manager, she's proud to say she holds the best job in the world, collecting, caring for, and handling precious objects from Cayman's past. And I won't read all the rest, but it's just a wonderful citation. And then Mr. Geraldo, coming back to Mr. Geraldo, Mr. Isaac Geraldo Rankin is recognized as a cultural ambassador of the Cayman Islands for his ongoing work particularly in the net making tradition, a discipline he learned from his father and by watching his elders. Born in the district of East End, Mr. Rankin spent a lot of time as a boy near the sea in the company of the district elders, watching the fishermen clearing their catch or making fish and turtle nets. Once he completed his schooling, he began a successful career at sea, one that lasted 21 years. It was during this time that he developed his passion for knitting nets and hammocks. I'll leave it at that for now. And that's Mr. Gerolo, the Heritage Cross. The final Heritage Cross gold is Miss or Mrs. Virginia Annie Walton, Mrs. Anne. It's pronounced Anne. Okay, Mrs. Anne Walton, and she's from Cayman Brac. And it says Anne Laura Walton Dixon was born at Booby Point, Spot Bay, Cayman Brac. Through her culinary practices and involvement with the community, she has excelled in the preservation and promotion of Cayman's heritage and traditions. A paragon of Caymanian hospitality, Mrs. Walton has significantly contributed to shaping the cultural identity of the Cayman Islands, particularly Cayman Brac. And then there's another set there, but I'll leave that for now. We're proud to have Miss Anne Walton in this lineup. And then this is the Heritage Cross, but this is at the bronze level, which means it's between 5. It's under 10, but between 5 and 10. And this goes to Mr. Philip Smith. And Philip Shibley Smith is the most recent artisan to join the Cayman Brac Heritage House thatch rope laying team. Currently a nature tourism guide at district administration, he has proven himself to be a great asset to the civil service. Always willing to share his zeal for culture and heritage with his colleagues and audience, Mr. Smith has been involved in many Cayman Brac Heritage House programs and cultural community events. He has participated in various traditional demonstrations such as making peppermint candy and thatch rope. He has conducted guided tours of the Heritage House grounds and buildings and led sessions on how to construct rosemary brooms. While he may be the youngest of the artisans, he has quickly mastered traditional methods and techniques that often take many years to learn. So those are our Heritage Cross awardees this year, 2 golds and 1 silver. And now we come to this Gold Star for Creativity. And again, this is awarded to people again in the ranges of the gold, 20 years or thereabouts, the silver level at 10 years, and the bronze level 5 and up. And again, the stress is always on the quality, even though we look at the years. It has to fulfill both things. And so we're proud of Mr. Ray Banker. Ray has been a stalwart, an artist for as long as we can remember, and he's done some tremendous work. Everybody, I hope all of you have seen Ray's work, and if you haven't, please come to the Harquail and look at the exhibition that he has up, and of course you can talk to him some more. So Ray Banker, he's from West Bay, had been drawing artistic inspiration from Caymanian culture for over 20 years. Mr. Banker, who formerly studied graphic design, incorporates his training into broader artistic skills. Often thought of as a painter, he also does fine craft, industrial and graphic design, photography and hand printing techniques of colorgraph and lithograph. Learned at Tala Experimental de Gracia in Old Havana. Tala Experimental de Grafica in Old Havana, Cuba. I don't know Spanish, so I tried my best. So please don't say that Henry said it wrong. So Mr. Banker's humorous take on life is depicted throughout his work, and though there is always an underlying serious message that speaks to Caymanian culture, a rallying cry to ensure that this culture is constantly identified and celebrated. So that's Ray. And then we have another gold star for creativity, and this is from Mr. Conroy Dalmain Ebanks. Mr. Conroy Ebanks was born in Cayman Brac. He attended the Creek School and then moved to New York, went to Boys High School, studying arts as a minor. He was awarded scholarships to the Brooklyn Museum Art School and the Pratt Institute, and also received a grant to attend the Pan American Commercial Arts School in New York City. After serving in the U.S. military, Mr. Ebanks relocated to Florida, where he attended Miami-Dade Community College, majoring in printing, photography, and drawing. Post-graduation, he became a business owner and upon retirement in 1999, moved back to Cayman Brac. So that's Mr. Ebanks. I don't know Mr. Ebanks very well, but I'm going to learn a lot about him. I'm sure Virginia will fill me in. Virginia will fill me in. Virginia has a very soft spot for the Brac, and I'm really happy that this was not planned. But I'm always happy when the awards are not, when they're spread out, and it's not through design particularly. We don't look about saying, oh, we must give somebody from the Brac. If you're good, you get the award. It's as simple as that. And then the Silver Heritage Cross is to George Jones, Mr. George Jones. George, please don't think that this is what you call it, narcissism. Mr. George is an employee, fairly recent employee of the Cultural Foundation, but before that, he's been doing a lot of volunteer work with the foundation, particularly assisting with the music tracks for Rundown. And those of you who have seen the last several Rundown, those of you who come to it and see it, would have heard a lot of the work that he has done on arranging some of the music track. And so the Silver Star for Creativity goes to George Jones. And George is Barbadian by birth and has been resident in the Cayman Islands for the past 15 years. He's a founding member and keyboard player of one of Barbados's and the Caribbean's top soca bands, Square One. And if you know soca, you know Square One, right? And he has recorded, arranged, produced, and performed on at least 15 Square One albums, as well as collaborated with other local and regional artists. Since migrating to Cayman, Mr. Jones has performed with several local groups, and in 2012 formed a new band with Brent McLean and Vashti Bodden called, KNRG? KNRG, okay, CAY-NRG. KNRG has performed at numerous local festivals and carnivals over the years and represented the Cayman Islands overseas. And of course, there's lots more about George, work he's done both in Barbados and in the Cayman Islands. And George is the recipient of our Silver Star for Creativity. And then, Virginia, is you going to do the volunteer award? Who announces the volunteer? Y'all don't want me to do everything, right? No. Can I ask you to come and do the volunteer awards? You can take it there, so you can help me save my throat. Thank you. There you go. Thank you, Virginia.
But before we get to the outstanding volunteers, there is a chairman's award. This award is given for outstanding long-term support of the work of CNCF. And it goes to Sandra Watler, who was expecting to be here. I'm not sure what happened. Sandra has been actively involved in all areas of volunteering with the National Cultural Foundation for the past 4 years. She sees the National Cultural Foundation as a fundamental and integral part of the Cayman Islands in the preservation and showcase of Caymanian culture, and delights in any opportunity to assist. To that extent, she has served as chaperone, driver, coordinator, assistant, box office attendant, and stage hand. Mrs. Watler, though she does not identify herself as an artist, actively demonstrates her love of the arts and inculcates this love in her children. She does. And others in her children and others in support of the work of the CNCF over many years. So she is mother of an outstanding Rundown cast member.
Rundown people, yes.
And the little one is
Aiden.
coming, Aiden Watler. And the little one is
if you've seen
also very
Rundown over the
talented.
last maybe 5 years, you would have seen Aiden. And he does multiple roles.
Yes.
And I think Aiden is about 17, going on 18. No, he's 18. Is he 17? No, he's 17 now, because I think he just started driving.
Mm-hmm. Outstanding
16s.
volunteers. We have Hazel Brown, who unfortunately was not able to come. She's a nurse and in an executive position these days. But Hazel, anytime you call on Hazel, especially for front of house at the Harkwell Theatre. And then my two favorites, Ileana Powry and Raj Ranjarajan. I only call him Raj. These are office volunteers. And they have put in countless volunteer hours working upstairs in our office. Last of all, we have the sponsor of the year, which is Island Heritage. Island Heritage. Henry, you can speak to Island Heritage more than me.
I mean, it's just to say that Island Heritage has been, they've been of tremendous help to us over several years. As a matter of fact, they do the roundabout drive. They drive around the roundabout. And all you do is you drive around, you toot your horns and so on. And they have, I think the total is about $30,000, and you pick 2 or 3 groups, and everybody gets at least 10,000. It doesn't matter how much you take. It's just a tremendous giving back to the community. I know they've done with us that for 2 years, and plus they've sponsored other programs that we have. And this year, for example, for Rundown, they bought out close to 100 tickets, and brought the entire staff and friends and so on, and they set up a little table and had a party with them while they watched Rundown, and it was just terrific. And hopefully many other people will follow their lead. But we thank them, and we thank all of our sponsors that we can
Yes,
talk
we
about.
would like to thank you for coming out. Thanks to the artistic director, and apologies from the Minister of Culture. And I think that we have some awardees here who are available for media interviews, although most of them have a very short amount of time off from their daily activities and their jobs and so on.
Just before we go, I just want to again reiterate this business about how the foundation operates. There's no cultural organization, whether it's the museum, the gallery, the foundation, none of us can exist and will exist without not just funding from government, but funding from the corporate sector, funding from private citizens, and volunteerism. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I don't think anybody understands really well how much free time this country, the people in this country, give to organizations, not just cultural organizations like the foundation or the all the organizations that are doing good, that are keeping this country viable and being a country. There's a tremendous, if you were to do a survey, and maybe this is something for any statistician who's in the room, ask every organization how many people volunteer for them, how many hours they have volunteered for the week, for the month, for the year, and add that up and put a figure for it per hourly rate. So if you get paid $50 an hour, you put that down by 20 or whatever. Multiply that and tally it, and you will see the amount of millions and millions of dollars that volunteers contribute by just coming and assisting us with the program. We can't do it without you, and we can't thank you enough, and we can't thank the artists enough for the work that they do. And I've always said that an artist, even if he doesn't have food, he will continue working. There's nothing that anybody can do to stop an artist who is passionate about life, passionate about the meaning of life, passionate about his work, and passionate about quality, passionate about getting to the next stop, or passionate of getting to the terminus, which he will never arrive at. You can't do anything to stop them from working. So even if you stop funding them, they will work. But we do hope that doesn't happen. We hope that people keep coming to the foundation, keep coming to the museum, keep going to the gallery, and help us to make certain that whenever the time comes, that we all can say the arts in Cayman, the arts, right, taken as a totality is well respected, and that we can be proud of the work we have done individually and collectively as a people and as a country to design and live our soul, or to design and live our bliss, whatever you want to call it.